I'm snapping checks and cashing checks, bro. You know, I want ass. I want to drive a Range Rover.
Drive a Range Rover, yeah.
Right? So all that stuff. So they wanted him to lean into it more. So we had to reshoot that scene. So when we did, Adam Scott, who, you know, is his brother in it, and I'm kind of Adam's henchman, right? I'm just his muscle, you know, just screaming. Anything he says, I'm backing up. And so he's like, hey, this is the Cali wine mixer. You know, you mess with that's where I make my nut for the year. You mess with my nut, I'm going to, you know, kill you or whatever. And I'm sitting there going, I'm foaming at the mouth because I want to kill Will's character, Brendan, you know. And just because, you know, my boss is mad at him or whatever, you know. And so I'm like, oh, I'm like literally making motions, mimicking. So whenever he got done saying something, I just go, pow, pow. And so it made Will just die laughing because he was like, what the f? and so then Will, being very gracious, was like, you got to just keep doing that. And so I kept yelling pow, and Will was like, why does he keep doing that, you know? But it was, again, things we find in the moment, improvised things.
Oh man, Rob Riggle, man, we are obviously, you know, we're huge fans of you. Moose and I go a while back with you to the Kansas City days. That was the start of Titletown, which is now Kansas City, Titletown of sports.
And you guys were the leading edge of that wave.
I said that 14 and 15 started everything, but I mean, what they're doing on that football field right now is incredible.
Yeah. It's special. It's special.
I was going to ask you too. So like everybody has like their story of a playoff game, of a Super Bowl. Like I was throwing a party. I was here. You got to have one. I saw the one you did with Edelman. You were climbing a mountain during the game or something like that. But you got to have some kind of Super Bowl story.
The thing was, I just never even knew if we were going to get a Super Bowl in my lifetime. Right. And so when we got it, you know, it was everything. Like that first year of 2020. When we got the Super Bowl, I was like, okay, I scrambled for every ticket I could get. I scrambled for every hotel room. You know, I had the family, the sister, I had nieces, like everybody was coming because you never take it for granted. I didn't know if we'd ever get back. It's that old Dan Marino thing. It was like, I'll be back next year. Whoop.
Nope.
Right? So, you know, I was like, I don't know if we'll ever be back here. So I'm taking, everybody's coming. And that was the biggest party. The one down in Miami.
You know I'm a Miami guy. That hit deep. You didn't have to go. You did not have to throw in the Marino comment right there.
Well, I always felt bad for him because he was one of the greatest of all time, and he got to the Super Bowl, his rookie year?
Yeah.
Right? And so he was, of course he's like, with this team and the way I'm slinging it, we'll be back.
You would think, right?
And then nothing happened. So that to me was the biggest warning ever. Take nothing for granted. When you're there, you got to maximize it and enjoy it because you never know.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to 14 and 15 with us, like 14.
14, I went out to game 3 in San Francisco.
Yep.
And because I was filming a movie up in Alaska, and I came back from Alaska to Seattle, down to San Francisco, just to see the game, because I knew I wasn't going to be able to get back to Kansas City for any of the games. Yeah. But I had to see you guys in the World Series. I had to see the Royals in the World Series, and I managed to scrap some tickets to that game 3. And just because I didn't know if, I never knew. You don't know if you guys are going back or not.
Yeah, we had to buy all the tickets. It ended up playing for free out there, but it was
literally playing for free. So
you got me like 6 tickets.
Yeah,
there was like a family list, a friends list, and like Moose said, we were basically playing for free. I mean, these things are like $2,000, $3,000 a ticket. We're just like, we're doing it.
Yeah,
not to mention the California taxes are so bad.
Yeah, it was great.
You said it. They ate me alive out there.
That's
they sure
terrible.
Did.
Yeah. It's well. I'm doing Barkley. It's terrible. It's terrible.
It's terrible. Speaking of the Barkley thing, man, you were just talking about you got some road trips coming up. We always see you on the Fox NFL show doing the football thing for a little while. Seems like you're having a blast, man. I see you in the golf tournaments all the time. So life's good right now for Rob Riggle, huh?
Yeah, I no complaints. I mean, I like to complain, but I have no reason to. I'm lucky. I'm blessed. I get to work. I get to do what I love, you know. And you know how good that feels when you get to do what you love. It's the greatest gift of all time. So I'm just thrilled every day that I get to keep working.
Yes.
Because, you know, I understand life. Life is very simple. You know, you work hard, you get your time on the stage, and then everybody tells you to go F off. And so I want to say
that one right now,
But I want to stay on that stage as long as they'll have me. You know,
Yes.
I'll ride the bull as long as it'll have me. It'll buck me off at some point, and fine. But I'm so lucky now that I get to keep working. So I'm very blessed.
What I love about all these stories that you're sharing, sports, see, football, baseball, golf, like where did this love for sports come from?
Oh, just from my youth. I mean, sports was everything. And I grew up here in Kansas City, so it wasn't, you know, everybody specializes now. You know, I live out in California, and all the kids in the neighborhood, they specialize at like in 5th grade, 4th grade, they're specializing. I'm like, come on. So for us growing up, it was seasonal. It was football, basketball, baseball, golf, and swimming in the summer. And by swimming, I just mean around in the pool. Yeah. Going off the high dives, doing gainers off the high dive, trying to impress people, girls specifically. It never worked.
You got the triceps?
But yeah, exactly. Working on a lot of just holding myself up. That's cool. Just sunbathing. But yeah, so it was always seasonal, and you never thought about specializing until maybe you were a senior or a junior in high school. But even then, you still played the other sports. Yeah. You know, and I always thought it made you a better athlete.
When I was in Little League, I bet you guys, this is way different for you guys. I played 10 games. 10 games in Little League. It wasn't a long season. I didn't even know about, at that time, I didn't do AAU. My family wasn't in baseball growing up.
Or clubs or all that stuff.
I didn't do that stuff. It was just, I played 10 games of Little League and moved on to the next sport in the next season. Like, it's like you play 80 games a year or something.
Well, and I feel bad for the parents too. Like these parents, they sign themselves up for hell on earth. They're doing every free minute they have is on the road, in Holiday Inns, at some sportsplex, 500 miles from where they live. And they're just pouring money out. And hey, listen, if the kids are great and they're excelling and it's fun and, the rewards are there, then yeah, absolutely worth it. Great. It's the same thing as owning a lake house or whatever. It's where you get your rewards. But it just seems really hard.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It seems really brutal on everybody.
Oh yeah, it's insane. Yeah, we're going through that right now. I got a 7-year-old and a 6-year-old, and like everyone's like, let's do club, let's do this. I'm like, let's just have fun, play the sports.
That's it.
And like enjoy what we're doing, hanging out with friends. So.
And that's what's so crazy about what we got going on now. So obviously, playing days are over. We started the Diggin Deep podcast here. Anthony, Moose, Justin. So we're learning now about the youth sports and what's going on with youth sports. And it's like, man, like you said, the specialization. Like you hear about kids. First of all, kids are committing to college when they're in their freshman year of high school. Kids are getting up at 5 in the morning to go to the gym before school starts, which I couldn't even imagine doing. But what's fun about it's not. Like, how are you happy? You got to be miserable every day as a kid, right?
Exactly.
But what we're doing now, which is cool, is
and you get one childhood, by the way, one childhood, and it doesn't come back. So, sorry, but that pisses me off sometimes when I hear it because I'm like, you
only get that one first time.
Don't force that on them, because once it's gone forever. I'm sorry, I interrupted your train of thought. Please.
That was great because I was just reminiscing on that first time, and you only get that one first time. I tell you what. But for players, former players, Anthony, Moose, and I, and now to not be playing, to doing what we're doing now, kind of taking a step back, trying to help kids, trying to help young big leaguers, young professionals, whatever it is. It's so cool because it's a different light. And, I know you've been in the acting game. Now you're on the production side. But for these young guys out there, what I love is like, you got to grind, man. You have to put your head down and get after it. And if anybody knows about grinding, it is you, man. Like looking at your journey from the service, the Marines, for everything you did to be where you're at now. And when I turn the TV on and see you at Tahoe in a golf tournament, it's like, man, Rob deserves this. So
Absolutely.
You're very nice.
You gotta elaborate on some of that because, man, what an impressive journey of road it was for you.
Thanks, man. That means a lot coming from you. I appreciate that. No, I agree. I get young people. I get former service members. I get a lot of people, just like you guys do. You come seek you out, your advice. And what they're really asking me, if I pin them down, they want the hack. They want the hack. How do I do it without having to do it? How do I get what you got, but I don't want to put in 10 years. How do I do it in 2 years or maybe just a year? If I'm being honest, you're like, I hear you, and that's fine. It's human nature to seek out the path of least resistance. So I don't put heavy judgment on that, but you have to recognize it and you have to say, okay, so I understand that you want that path. Everybody does. Yeah. but you're doing yourself a disservice. Because I could slap a black belt on you and you can walk around telling everybody you're a black belt, and everybody's going to look at you and they're going to see you in your gi and you're going to see the black belt and they'll be like, geez, I don't know. But as soon as you get in a fight, you're going to get your ass kicked.
Toast.
Right? So you got to get your white, get your yellow, get your orange, get your green, get your blue, get your brown, and earn it. Yeah. Right? Earn it. And then when you have that black belt and you step out there, now you're a different character. Now you're ready. Just like when you were coming up playing ball, right? You had to get in your reps. You had to get in your time. You have to grind. You have to do the work.
Yes.
There is no hack for it. And I understand because I wanted it too.
Yeah.
When you're young, you want it now, and you feel like life is running away from you, and you're like, everybody, I'm going to be 30. It makes me laugh now because I'm like, why was I in such a panic? Like the time it's be a little patient, let it come to you a little bit, and if you're doing the work, if you're doing what you should be doing, it'll happen.
Yes.
It will happen.
It's the process.
It's the process. And nobody wants to hear that. None of the people that are trying to make it happen, they don't want to hear that. They want the breaks now. And listen, for some people they'll get them early, some people they'll get them late, some people, whatever. But the one thing you can't dodge or avoid is the work.
No. And
you just can't.
When we first came up, I talk about this all the time. When we first came up to the big leagues, the new thing was the strength training, working out and taking that into the off season. So you're not coming to spring training to get in shape. You're going in the off season, getting in shape, coming to spring. So that process and that development. So Sua, a new thing now in baseball is the mental side of the game. So Justin's a process and development coach, and it's someone that a lot of big time players in the league rely on him to call, to start dialogue, to start that whole entire thing. So for you, this is something here in Rob's process, the belt's going all the way up. You got to love what he's saying.
It's so true. So I was with the Cleveland Browns one year, and there was a player who was in the corner doing some weird stretching just on his leg, his muscle. And I asked him, I'm like, what are you doing? He goes, I'm embracing the boredom of consistency. And it was just a powerful message. And he goes, and we got into this conversation about greatness. And he goes, a lot of people aren't willing to embrace the boredom of consistency. They want the wins. They want the Super Bowls. You see everyone's highlights, but they don't know that these elite professionals in any domain are doing the little things that everybody else hates to do. And they hate it too, but they know they must do it in order to reap the rewards later on. And so my question for all of you is, as you embrace the boredom of consistency in your careers, what was your incentive? Like, what pushed you through those difficult times?
This guy embraces the boredom of consistency.
I was like, I'm ready to answer right now.
Yes.
I don't know why though. It's like, now you say it like that, I'm kind of like, damn, why do I like being so consistently boring in a sense? But like, it is a boring process, I guess, to do the same things every day. But when you see the end goal in your head and that's the way you think you're going to get there or know you're going to get there, it becomes enjoyable. I don't find that boring. I find it like I'm going to get there by doing it this way. I need to be consistent. And then also too, there's a skill set differential too. You were much better players coming out of high school than I was coming out of college. I had to do something different or something else that made me be the best I could be. And my way of doing that was being consistent, being first guy in, last guy out type thing, just working as hard as I can. And worst case scenario, I don't get where I want to be, but I put it all in. I kind of hate the saying, like, leave it all out there, but it's true. You can't look back and regret anything if you do that. It is what it is if you don't make it, but that's just the way I did it.
I've found, and not just because of the Marines or anything else, but I have found that, I believe in certain little maxims, I do believe if you're not growing, you're dying. I do believe, you need to be constantly working and improving, against yourself, not against anybody else, but trying to improve, all the motivational things you've ever heard, right? But I do find there's these cliches and these things that you hear, they're not just throwaways. There's truth in them, real truth that you can put your feet on, and you can build a foundation on because those truths are there. And one of them to me is, motivation is great, but it goes. As soon as it gets hard, that motivation will fly out the window.
Yes.
Discipline is the cornerstone, I think, of all achievement. I just think it is. And the more I do stuff, and the more I look back on life and see where did things go right, where did things flatline, or where did things, and all the peaks were when discipline was at its best. And that's what leads to confidence. Confidence comes from that discipline. Recently, I'll give you an example. I have started to cold plunge, okay? I fucking hate it. It's so hard. It's so hard when you're hovering above the water and I'm like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this.
Do you go in full nips?
Yeah, I go up to the neck and I hate it. But I got to say, within a minute, it's over. The pain's over, and and then the healing and all the good stuff and the anti-inflammation. Like then I'm loving it, right? Yep. But God dang it, it takes everything I got to get in that water. But the more I do it every day, I start to feel better about myself. I start to feel more confident. I start to feel like, and then it feeds on itself. If I can do that, I can do this every day. And if I can do that every day. So now, my girlfriend's Polish, so I study my Polish every morning, on my app. I do my Polish every morning. I do a couple readings, I cold dip, and then I start my day, and that consistency makes me feel confident, makes me feel good about myself. And it's just the discipline. It's just the discipline of doing it. And boy, the way it sucks.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Sucks. But athletes, Marines, people like you guys live it because you might not even realize it. Maybe it's just because you followed the herd, but you did it every day. You did the work every day. And that's why you got to be at a very high level.
Yeah, we used to have to get in a cold plunge every single day.
Yeah.
Before games, after games, it was miserable.
It's the worst.
And now all my buddies back home, they're like, let's go cold plunge. I'm like,
It's like a trend.
No, I'm good. You're not gonna get all the way in. No, I'm just gonna go up to my knees. We'll figure it out later. But
a couple things you just said right there. The simple and the discipline. That reminds me of conversations we had when you sent me the Phil Knight, the guy that started Nike. He had the list of what was going to make Nike successful, and it was just 10 super simple things. And then when you were telling me you were working with the military, how the coach told you, or not the coach, the commander, whatever it was, whoever it was you're working with, said, we don't need no rah-rah motivational speech. And that was something that I felt like he just nailed on the head.
Yes, no, I completely agree. And I love what you said. There's a phrase, people don't remember conversations, they remember sentences. And to have a sentence that's compressed of baked in truth, I think that's so powerful. There was, to go along with what you said, there was an athlete I was working with. And he was incredibly competent, one of the best in the world. But he had this negativity, kept beating up on himself. And you see that a lot with great ones. It actually drives them to be better, that fear of failure. But it was starting to hinder performance and hinder him getting better. And so what we ended up doing, we came up with keeping receipts on tiny wins. And so what he did, because in the moment of pressure, your mind's gonna go back to start counting, audit your behavior. Did you do what it takes to be successful in this situation? And so he started to write down, like you said, all of his little wins. I slept 8 hours last night. I ate healthy. And he literally wrote it down and he put it in his locker. And so before he went into play, he would look at his receipts of all the tiny wins, the private wins that he had. So that would give him confidence to go in and succeed publicly, to get the public wins. And I thought, I love what you're saying. Those tiny, little by little, a little becomes a lot.
That's right. I agree.
We had Bobby Witt Jr. on our first or second round of episodes, and he was telling us how after every game, he sits down, he journals 3 positive things that happened throughout the day, 3 negative things that happened throughout the day, and then he goes and reevaluates the next day and gets it going. And I'm like, me and Moosey were thinking about 3 bars we were hitting up after every game, and this guy is just taking it to another level.
We're ready to rock.
Oh, man.
But there is something, too, also to that, to your point, there is something about not overthinking it.
Yeah.
You have to find a balance because you have to seek improvement. Constantly seek self-improvement. Know yourself and seek self-improvement. I think that's a cornerstone. But at the same time, it's like when I golf. If I have more than one swing thought, I'm fucking away that shot. If I just keep it simple, stupid, the KISS method, right? We all heard the KISS method. So if I just keep it simple and just have one thought, generally speaking, I know how to get the club from here to here. So just have that one thought. And all of a sudden I start puring it a little bit better. And it's just because, so it is that thing where you do have to make a focused effort and then chill.
Yeah.
A focused effort and relax and enjoy what's happening around you, be present, and then get back into the focus. And then, so there's no silver bullet solution to any of this.
You talked to a lot of golfers, and when golfers, you ask them, hey, why do you walk the course when you're trying to score better than actually driving the cart? And that's what they say, because it gives them time.
Yeah.
They're walking up, they can focus on the shot, they can think. boom, they do it, they clear it out, and then you're getting close to your ball and you start dialing in some focus again.
Golfers are the worst. To what you were saying about beating yourself up, they're the worst. Yes. I watch on Sundays. I like to watch on Sundays because it's always, and these guys are knocking it 150 out within 5 feet, right? Glorious shot. And they cut back to the guy and he's like, you're like, what?
It's amazing.
And I appreciate that level of, excellence that they want.
Yes.
And I totally appreciate it. But, I hope at some point they at least give a fist bump to their caddy and acknowledge it's a pretty great shot.
Yeah.
Yes. We were actually talking about this, about something I want to bring up to the group. As an athlete, you get hard data on if you're doing well or if you're doing poorly. You know it, the world knows it, immediate feedback, tight feedback loops. You can go 0 for 4, go 4 for 4, score, wins and losses. In a profession like acting or a profession like podcast hosting, you don't get those tight feedback loops. Sometimes it is hard to see, am I good? Do I suck? How do I know? You don't get the immediate feedback. In your experience as an actor, how do you get better in that industry?
Acting's tricky. You don't get immediate feedback. You do get feedback eventually,
yes,
but you don't get it immediate.
The people let you know.
Art form, the only art form I know is a stand-up. When I did stand-up, I got immediate feedback. I think it's the most pure art form there is. It's me, a microphone, and an audience. There's no producer, there's no director. I'm the writer and I'm the performer. So either they're with me or they're not. And you're either winning or you're not, and they'll let you know instantly. So that's pure. That's a pure art form. Acting, nah. If the crew is laughing, if your fellow, castmates are enjoying themselves, or you can tell in the moment. It's like when you hit a good golf shot, or I'm sure when you hit the baseball and it just gives, and that's gone, right?
Yeah. Flush.
I don't know that experience very well, but I have a couple moments with a golf ball. And when you flush it, right? And it's just, it's pure, it's good. You know that. Well, sometimes in acting, when you're in a scene and you really connect with someone, or you really felt the moment, or you feel like either you captured what you were trying to do or they did, you know it. And you're like, well, if nothing else, that scene's going to be pretty great. The rest of the movie, you never know. There's too many things involved. You got the director's vision, you got the producers, you got the other cast members, you got the writer, and you're trying to, it's real synergy. When a movie works, it's a miracle.
Was there a big time scene? Because you've had some fucking epic scenes. Was there one you did it and you're like, oh, I nailed that one. I cannot wait because I know I nailed that one. That was gonna be huge.
I had a scene in Step Brothers that got cut, and it's on the DVD extras, right? It's the deleted scenes. Mm-hmm. And we had the most fun doing it because it was an improv just explosion. And the reason we had to reshoot it was Will Ferrell's character was too passive. So in that scene, he comes in and he goes, I want the Catalina wine mixer. I think I'm ready. And I'm like, you think you're ready? You think you're ready? You ain't ready for shit. And so I just start, just busting his beans, and it never stops. And it heightens and and we just kept heightening to absurd places where at one point I have a heart attack while I'm yelling at him and I die. And then I come back to life. And I'm like, did you see my grandmother? And he's like, no, you see your grandmother again? And Will's like, it's because you died. And I'm like, what? I don't know. Because I'm always hardcore. And it's in the deleted scenes. And it was the most fun I ever had in a scene because it was improv. We were making each other laugh. We could barely get through it, and we were finding these weird things, little tangents to go off on. And everybody was it was just one of those moments. Like everybody was cooking with gas and we had a blast.
Cooking with gas.
But the thing that sucked was they decided after they looked at the whole movie, they were like, his character was too passive. So they wanted him to be more aggressive when he came in to ask for the wine mixer. So that's when I'm snapping jacks and cashing checks, bro. I want ass. I want to drive a Range Rover.
Range Rover, yeah.
Right? So all that stuff. So they wanted him to lean into it more. So we had to reshoot that scene. So when we did, Adam Scott, who, is his brother in it, and I'm kind of Adam's henchman, right? I'm just his muscle, just screaming. Anything he says, I'm backing up. And so he's like, hey, this is the Catalina wine mixer. You mess with that's where I make my nut for the year. You mess with my nut, I'm going to, kill you or whatever. And I'm sitting there going, I'm foaming at the mouth because I want to kill Will's character, Brennan, And just because, my boss is mad at him or whatever, and so I'm like, oh, I'm literally making motions mimic. So whenever he got done saying something, I just go, pow! Pow! And so it made Will just die laughing because he was like, what the f? and so then Will, being very gracious, was like, you got to just keep doing that. And so I kept yelling pow, and Will was like, why does he keep doing that? You know, but it was, again, things we find in the moment, improvised things. So that ended up replacing the other. But yeah, sometimes when you're improvising and having fun, and you're playing with other people who know how to do bits and stuff, it's really fun because they'll take it in great ways, or they'll know, like, I'm the straight man here, I better, you know, because if I came in and did something crazy, right? If you do something crazy, now we're both crazy, it goes to crazy town way too fast. But if I come in and say something crazy and you're straight, you know, straight man, you're kind of the advocate for the audience, right? You're the guy who's going, well, hold on a second. I don't think you should put your balls on your, you know.
On the drum set.
Yeah, on the drum set. Right? You know that might be a bad idea. You know, you go, no, trust me, I do it all the time. You know, and then I'd be crazy and you'd be, and that's kind of how it works. And so if you find someone great to play with, the scenes can be hilarious and a lot of fun. I think Jason Bateman's the best straight man in the business. If you ever watched
Cubes, I was with the Cubes last week. You know, yeah. So do you remember when that scene came out, the pow, pow? So we, in the clubhouse, we love to have fun, man. You knew you were in there a couple of times with our group. So Gerard Dyson, man, he would be walking around, and Ned, you know, we call the manager Skip in the big leagues or in pro ball. So Ned would be like hiding behind a corner, and all of a sudden Dyson would walk around the corner, and Ned would pop out and go, pow, right there, Dyson. And Dyson one day looked at him and said, man, Skip, you too old to be doing this type of shit. It's unbelievable, dude. Hey, speaking of,
I thought Dyson would have taken the opportunity. Remember when the guy popped out of the trash can and the guy got popped? That would have been a Dyson chance to give Ned just a quick shot. Hey, you can't scare me like that.
That might have been over, though. That might have been it for
Remember the Texas Heart Shot player of the game we used to do?
Yes.
So in our run, right, so it really started in 2014, like we said. That was the run. We got the wild card game. We had the crazy game against Oakland. We go to LA, San Fran, World Series, all that. It was such a whirlwind for all of us because Moose and I, we're young guys and we're all fired up after the game. We got the lights are off and the player of the game pulls this light on or whatnot. And all of a sudden one day we're rolling, we're clinching a playoff spot. Then all of a sudden some guys, hey, we got a celebrity guest, Texas Heart Shot of the game. And all of a sudden Rob comes in and he goes, pow, pow. So me and Moose are sitting here like, what is happening right now? Dude?
We're doing really good right now.
What is going on? Yes, yes.
I remember I was at the game and somebody said, you want to come in and do this? I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. They're like, just flip we're going to do a big light show. Just start screaming. Yeah. I'm down.
It worked out great.
Like, he's going to the locker room. Yeah. You know, these guys, it was the best.
We remembered it.
Unbelievable. Those times of 14 and 15, especially being around them, was unbelievable.
Yes.
That was such a special time.
It was unbelievable.
You guys were such an amazing team. And to this day, I have your clip of stealing home against the Mets, right? Yeah. You know, when you made that call, when you made that decision, and
craziest base running decision of all time.
It was so pleasing to me because I'm still haunted by the question of whether or not Gordo could have made it in Game 7, right? Around in 14. That always haunts me. It always bothers me. We'll never know. Right. No one will ever know. You know, I know they've done all kinds of stats and, you know, geometric, research on it. But I'm like, okay, we'll never know because pressure also makes you throw high, throw low, you know. So you just never would have known. So that haunted me. So when you did that, in 15, I keep that clip, honestly, it's almost like I keep clips sometimes of like Rocky moments. You know?
Come on.
Oh, sorry.
Play my theme music, right?
I mean it. I really do because it meant that much to me. It inspired me that much. It was such a ballsy, fun, but yet that's what it was ballsy, but it was fun. It was just what baseball is to what it should be, which is kind of playing with a little reckless abandon. You know, and rolling the dice sometimes and having some fun and putting the pressure on the other guy and just, I don't know. I loved every aspect of it. Because even like playing poker, it was such a poker move. It was such a great, you're going to, I'm going to triple bet you now. He's like, oh, shit. I was like, here we go. It's happening.
I got nothing, but we're pushing.
It was such a special run. And you guys always had that ability to you were never out of it. Never out of it. And that's what I loved about that 14-15 run was I never thought you guys were out of any game. Ever,
kind
ever,
of our
ever.
theme.
That was exactly how we thought.
Extra innings, late stuff.
And bold moves.
Bold, man.
Bold moves, man.
I remember watching him run in the dugout. I'm like,
no, were you screaming no? Or yes? No. I think everybody was. I was screaming no all the way until he was safe. And then I was like,
that's the best thing in
Do you know how many times I've seen that signal from Moose in my life? No. Do not do this. Do not.
That's in the bar. That's on the baseball diamond. That's in the. That's everywhere.
35.
Don't do this. You know what's so cool too is, so we talked about mixing the sports with, you know, the Hollywood, the celebrities and all that. And now we're at a point where there's certain celebrities that are kind of the celebrity face of the city, the state, whatever it is. And what's so cool about all you guys, you know, you, Paul, Jason, Eric, all you guys that come back every year for the Big Slick game, like how cool is it now? Not only now because you guys all have crazy schedules, but you know the Big Slick is on there each and every year. You get to go hang out with all the friends, family, and everyone's going to be there. But not only that, now, you know, we started the little playoff run with Kansas City and now the Chiefs. It's almost like every playoff, every Super Bowl, you guys are kind of planning on being somewhere together because you know they're going to be in the game, right?
Yes.
That's so cool.
That is awesome.
Absolutely. And it's a blessing for us to have teams that we can root for, that we can, you know, that we have these special moments. So it's been, we've been on a hot run ever since 14, and it's been fantastic.
It's been a good decade.
It's been a decade of bliss.
Yes,
you know,
yes.
and it's been wonderful. So yeah, no, listen. And by the way, when the Chiefs were 2-14 and I was on Fox, I still picked them every week.
Love that. Loyalty.
You know, it cost me a lot. You know, I think how he beat me that year, or it doesn't matter. But anyway, it cost me. But it doesn't matter. That's right. It doesn't matter because these are my teams.
Oh yeah,
these are my teams.
Got to stay with them.
That's so cool.
Exactly.
We need to get out to Sherwood. Moose is out there in Sherwood. We need to get around.
We got to set up around, dude.
Oh my gosh, yeah, we should. But here's the thing: I'm the best member out there in the world. Pay dues, never play.
Never go.
Yeah, and it sucks because I want to. It's not that I don't want to. It's just I'm busy. But I also get mad at myself sometimes because I'm like, now am I busy doing stupid shit or am I busy making progress? I love when I make progress, and I hate when I'm busy but I'm not achieving anything.
Right.
And sometimes that happens because this quid pro quo world we live in, you know, I ask a lot of favors from people to come back for Big Slick or to do this or to do that. And of course they call in their chips, you know, on occasion, and I have to go do this or that or that. And that's fine. And those are charity things, but I just run out of I just don't have a lot of time to go do what I used to do.
But they always said to me though, when you're done playing, there's plenty of time for golf. So
sure, I get to play a lot of charity tournaments. It's all baseball players. And they're all great golfers. They're all great golfers.
That's what we talked about. There needs to be some kind of collab there with baseball and golf because that's a perfect match.
You should have how easy would it be to get like a Nike tour, right? Or an Adidas or whatever. Get a tour just of former baseball players.
Yeah. That'd be like Vargas we talk about all the time. So Vargas had Tommy John.
Yeah.
We called it the MLB tour.
Yeah, I was on that tour as well.
Yeah, Moose would get up at 6 in the morning on a game day and go golf somewhere.
Yeah, it was awesome.
So you were all about that.
You were dedicated.
Yeah, I loved it.
That's awesome.
But it also kept me out of the bars late at night because I know how to wake up at 6.
Bless you. When I was in the Marines, I went to school at night in Eastern North Carolina. If you're not careful, you will have a big payment on a truck, tattoos, and furniture you don't need. Probably a girlfriend that you don't need either. And so I went to the night school, and it kept me out of the bars, and it saved me a lot of money.
I remember we were talking about that at that last tournament. You were in the Marines and still would go to night school for was it stand up or acting?
No, it was actually it was a master's degree in public administration.
Okay,
because that's the only thing they offer down there, and I was like, it's good for me. It keeps me out of trouble.
What was your transition period? If you're in the Marines for 23 years. When did you cross over to actually getting? I mean, I know you were doing it while trying to get there.
So I was 9 years active duty.
Okay.
And so I didn't get to do anything during that. So basically all my 20s were that whole decade was in the active duty. Then I went to the reserves. And while I was in the reserves, that's when I started doing comedy because I had more flexibility to do that. So I managed to get myself to New York City as my last active duty station. So the last 3 years I was on active duty, I was in New York and I was working with the Upright Citizens Brigade. My teachers were Amy Poehler, Matt Walsh, not the political commentator, the guy that on Veep, Ian Roberts, Matt Besser, you know, and I performed with Horatio Sands and Adam McKay and you know, all these wonderful New York, you know, Seth Meyers and Will Forte and people that would come down to the UCB just to do shows. And so I always felt very lucky. I learned from some of the best and got to study and perform with them, and kind of, I grinded for about 7 years before I got my break, which is about right.
What was your break?
Saturday Night Live. Well, I got a couple opportunities. I did a bunch. I did almost 20 bits on Conan O'Brien, way back when he was on NBC, when it was late night. Man in the audience, guy who wants to fight Conan, Tarzan who speaks to animals, security guard, that can, tell gay people, whatever, I just had, so I was always the day player, the bit player.
I always wonder if like what people see as your big break is what you consider to be your big break,
My big break was Saturday Night Live. Yeah. And I was so green. I was so green compared to everybody else. Everybody else kind of, I don't know, their life was show business. Mine wasn't. And
you scared of you?
Yeah. No.
Met them with the fury?
But I was very green. So when I got to SNL, I was kind of like very gung ho and, teamwork, right? And it was like, whatever, man, good luck. I was like, should we practice? You guys want to rehearse? And they were all like, pound sand, dickhead. So I was like, all right, gosh. And so I had to learn. There's a learning curve that comes along with these things, and I did. And my time on SNL was short, but I was lucky enough to go from there to The Daily Show. And on The Daily Show, I spent three years over there, really learning a lot. Jon Stewart was very gracious with me and allowed me to get more reps and get more time and learn, just kind of learn more, especially about being in front of the camera and things like that. But again, it went down to discipline too, I think, because the first time I did an in-studio piece, I sucked because I had to read off the teleprompter. Well, reading off teleprompter can be intimidating. And if you don't have any experience with it, it's really intimidating. And the faster you talk, the faster it scrolls. And it's this self-fulfilling prophecy where you're like, and it's going, because the guy's just going as fast as you're going, and like, shit. So I didn't know these things, and so I kind of blew the first one, right? And I was so embarrassed and I was so upset. And I could tell John was like, hey, man, it's all right. It's all good. It'll be fine. It was like a dad at Little League or something. But so on my lunch breaks, or on lunch, we had an hour for lunch, I would get the floor director and I would say, hey, would you mind if we went into the studio and just ran old segments? And he was like, yeah, no problem. So he would sit there with a plate and turn on the camera and the thing and have a teleprompter thing. He'd eat his lunch and I would just read old segments on the camera, and just get used to seeing it and then pausing to see, oh, okay, it'll stop with me. And, I'm not a smooth reader, but I can read. So, and the thing is far away, so you kind of you don't want to squint, and you got to be in the moment when you're doing comedy bits, and there might be props you got to work with or things you got to do. So it took me a while to learn that, and I spent my lunches doing it, and the second, third time I started doing it, there was a marked improvement. And I think that meant something to John. John appreciated the effort. He appreciated the fact that I cared and was trying. And so then I think that's why he let me stick around.
Yeah, you gotta be willing to do stuff other people don't want to do.
That's it. I think, they always talk about, again, all these cliches and stuff, right? Extraordinary, right? You got to do the extra if you want to be something more than ordinary, if you want to be extraordinary. So that's it. You got to do the extra.
Absolutely.
Without anybody telling you to do it. So,
how many on Saturday Night Live? How much of it are you reading off of prompters or cue cards, or how much do you?
Cue cards. It's all
cards,
cue cards, and it's scary as hell because it's cue cards. The host is always in black, and then every other cast member is in a different color. Okay, so let's say it's me, Will Forte, and Horatio Sands, and Tom Hanks. Tom's in black, I would be in brown, you'd be in red, and you'd be in green, okay? And you only get to go one card at a time, right? Now, throughout the week, you've kind of worked it through, but they're always changing, adding a joke, taking things. Well, usually after the second music act, they'd come in, they go, the band went too long, we got to cut the scene. They usually just cut the whole scene, and we go out for extended goodnights. Hey, thanks everybody, and then they'd let it roll for a long time. But sometimes they're like, we're doing a sketch, but we had to cut it down. So the changes are on the cards. They're telling you this as you're putting on your wig or whatever. As you're walking to set, they're saying the changes are on the cards. And you're like, well, what changed? What changed? And they're like, we had to cut some things. 3, 2, you know, and all of a sudden you're on live to the world, not live to tape, live to the world. And you're just on the cards, because as they go like this, you discover, was my line cut? Is it not cut? And you're just searching for your color. You're like, I don't care. Oh, there I am. And you're trying, okay, what's the line that leads me into that? It's all happening at the speed of light, right? And it's just boom. And it's one card at a time, So you're like, okay, oh, they cut that. That's what they cut. Oh God, okay. And it's one card at a time. And so it's very stressful.
Sounds
very stressful. But it's also a lot of fun, you know.
Hearing you describe your life and everything that you've experienced and you've done, Steve Jobs would say you could only connect the dots looking back. What I'm very curious about now is even your comment in the beginning of this conversation about specialization and like young kids specializing, and talking about how being against it or not a fan of that. You are completely opposite of that. You've done so many different things. What was your goal setting process like? Were you ever, what's success? What were you chasing? How did you know where you were going?
I'll give you I never got to be on Oprah, but if I ever did, this was the story I was going to tell.
Here's your Oprah moment.
Here we go.
Wow, Willie, clip this right here.
So when I was in flight school in the Marines, I was down in Corpus Christi, Texas. Now, I had my pilot's license when I was in college. So I had, probably 150 hours flight time, and I was fine. I could fly. I liked flying, but I had a guaranteed flight contract with the Marines. So once I got through officer candidate school, got through the basic school, I went down to Pensacola, went through aviation indoctrination. I was out in Corpus Christi doing primary flight training. We're flying out over the Gulf every day. We're having, formation flights, aerobatics. We're doing good stuff. It was all fun. But it wasn't my passion. Like when I went out to the bars at night with the guys, I'm like, what's up, girls? What's up? Yeah, I saw Top Gun. What's up? They're all over in the corner going, oh man, I couldn't get it right today, and they were over there. And I was like, these guys are pilots. These guys love what they're doing. And if you're flying off a ship at night, you better be passionate like they are. And I wasn't passionate. I liked it. It was fun, but it wasn't keeping me awake at night. I wasn't talking with my hands like they were all the time. Then somebody came and was like, you got to do comedy. It was a friend from college. He was up in Chicago. He was doing Second City. He's like, the stuff we did in college has a name. It's called improv. You got to do it, man. You do it better than all these guys up here. You got to do it. He planted the seed. And it got me thinking. And then I started thinking about what I really wanted to do. I was a theater and film major at KU. I loved comedy. I love acting. But I just never thought it was real. I didn't think it was a real thing. I grew up in the 80s. I'm like, I got to get a job. I got to have something steady. And then, of course, I'm going to get married and have kids. And I know how life works, I didn't believe it was possible. So I just didn't give it the credence that it deserved. Well, cut to that moment. I was at quarter life crisis. I was 24 years old, and I was like, if I finish this flight school, I'm going to be a pilot for the rest of my life. That's how it's going to be. I'm going to probably do my 20 plus years in the Marines, and then I'll go fly for the airlines, and that's it. That's what happens. And it's a great life. Love it. But I also was like, but then all these other side dreams, these little secrets that I never told anybody that were inside me, that I wanted to be an actor and I wanted to be a comedian and I wanted to do those things, they'll never ever see the light of day. And I knew that at that moment. So I was reading a book, and this is back, you could drive onto the beach down at Corpus, and I had a little second lieutenant mobile, brand new Ford Explorer or whatever, so I drove it down on the beach, it popped the back, and I was sitting there and I was reading my book, and I just sat there and did the old soul searching thing, right? Not to be too melodramatic, but it was, 24-year-old. And I sat down and I wrote, the first thing I wrote on that book, because I hadn't quit anything in my life, I said, if I quit, it's got to matter, it's got to count. So what am I going to do? So the first thing I wrote was, I'm going to get on Saturday Night Live in that book, okay? That was September of 1994. 10 years later, 2 wars, a marriage, a child, in September of 2004, almost to the day I got on Saturday Night Live. So, you write your things down, you commit to them, and you do them. And that's how it works, So
sorry about Oprah. We got the clip.
That's incredible.
So, Rob, man, you're the man. Moose and I have looked up to you for a long time. hearing stories from you, saying that you have highlights of us, just continue to make my day, man. We love you, man. Thank you so much for coming on here, spending some time.
Thanks for having me. This is a great show, man. Congratulations.
Man. Thanks, Rob.
Congratulations on this, guy.